Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Monday Night Pod. My name is Jeremy Jacobowitz. I'm here with my tag team partner, Adam Welby.
Hey, yo.
And this is the podcast all about the Monday Night Wars, all about the battles between WWF Raw and WCW Nitro. If you're new, every single week we go back in time and we re-review when Raw went head-to-head with Nitro at the end of the day. We want to see who really should have won the Monday Night Wars. Adam, why should people listen to what we have to say?
Because let me tell you something, Jer Bear. Monday Night Pod is the place where the black and white brand is coming on. We're bringing up all the records. We're breaking all the viewership. We are the #1 show that is going over all the Monday Night Wars one at a time, week by week, finding out a winner. And let me tell you something, brother. It's only going up from here. It's only going straight to the top. Because I'm in the NWO now. If
turns, you went heel on me.
I was always the heel in this one.
I would have thought you would have come at me this week with like a demo god kind of thing.
Oh,
okay, we might not have the best ratings, but
you know what? First of all, brilliant. Have you? When is the last time that you saw people take the bait of a heel so full, just eat it up, just jam it?
Yeah, I don't really understand why people are so upset with him. It seemed funny to me.
It's exactly. What's so amazing about it? Like he put out a heel thing, and people just like grabbed onto it with both hands and swallowed it whole. You know, like it was one of the most brilliant troll heel moves I think I've seen in quite some time.
That's true. I did forget to mention we both used to work at WWE. We worked in the WWE tape library. Job starts to watch all of wrestling, which is why we do this podcast, because we've honestly seen more wrestling than you, if you're a listener. There's just no way, because we saw everything in the archives that is not available to anybody else.
It's true, and a little bit of a tease. We might mention some other specific things from our time working in the WWE tape library later on in this show when we see somebody. A little bit of a tease there.
Interesting. See somebody. I had a note, but it wasn't from seeing somebody, so maybe we have two very different things.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I'll tease it right here. Tonight, on, what is it? November 4th, 1996.
Yes.
We see somebody in one of these programs that Jeremy and I worked with in the WWE tape library.
I did not pick up on that. So you teased me, Adam. I want to know what you're talking about.
I will tell you when we get to it. I'm not going to name names because we're not dropping first name last names on this show, but
I was ready to name names about the person I was thinking of on the show, so we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see.
If I'm right, my brain is totally scrambled. But I mean, I think like we're sort of beating around the bush here. This episode is an episode that probably, like, if we were to do these out of order and just sort of hit up the main things, this would be like top 5 episodes to talk about, right?
It's definitely in the top 10. It is up there. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're listening, you hopefully saw what the title was. We will get to it because we can go through Raw in order, I guess. But like, Brian Pillman has a fucking gun, and this becomes not only one of the biggest nights in Monday Night Wars history, in WWF history, but honestly, one of the more historic and important nights in cable history for the what ended up happening because of this.
Yeah, it's a very, very much a shift. It's fun in Monday Night Wars looking back as we're able to chart out this path and see all these specific moments where there are these specific shifts. NWO arriving being one of them, and tonight being another one of them. So, man, Jer, we got all the teases in the world, but I think we should get in our time machine.
Yes, let's do it. Adam, let's go. This is episode 183 of Raw. As you mentioned before, it's November 4th, 1996, and we are once again taped from the War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But very similar to what they did last week, and honestly similar to the way WWE produces programs now, a lot of the show actually is live. It's just what we see in the arena is taped. So we start off. Here we go. So we see what happened last week with Stone Cold, and we know that Kevin Kelly is going to be live at Pillman's house. In fact, he opened up the show with Kevin Kelly outside. Says that he will interview Pillman live, and Stone Cold has threatened to show up. And he teases what Pillman will do if Austin does show up. I mean, first of all, I was sort of shocked that there was no warning in front of this episode. I know WWE does that. If you watch an ECW show, there is a warning of hey, something might be in this episode is not for everybody. I'm sort of shocked that out of all things on the network, this didn't come with a warning.
Yeah. You mean in the network itself?
Yeah. If you try watching an ECW episode, it tells you hey, this is rated M, guys. This isn't the normal content. Viewer discretion advised, whatever it is.
Right.
It seems even Benoit stuff, I think, has that on it sometimes. It seems odd that not to run some sort of thing where we're going to see the whole episode is about someone shooting somebody.
Well, yeah. I think they're probably – I imagine they put those things on there for specific legal reasons, right? Because –
Well, right. I mean, but they do it in front of the content that's rated M, and I guess technically this episode isn't rated M, but it just – yeah, it just seems
still running in the PG era, right?
I don't even think there were ratings in 1996. Maybe there were ratings, but we're right around there. So I don't even know if I don't even know if I had an official rating. You would just think that out of all the content on the network to have a warning about this would be one of them, but whatever.
Yeah, I think it's got to be one of the only times. I can only think of 2 times in WWF history that someone has pointed a gun. And in one of those 2 times, we were shown that the gun was fake during that same episode. But this one, I don't want to spoil it. You know what? Let's talk about those thoughts at the end here.
Well, we'll have to. Well, yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens. We'll play it by ear.
But, some of the podheads haven't watched this episode. They don't know what's going to happen. They're on the edge of their seat right now.
I'll say this. If you're listening to this podcast and you have no idea what we're talking about, you're probably not a big enough wrestling nerd to be listening to this.
Well,
not that I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just saying I don't think you could get enjoyment out of our podcast if you are listening to this right now and have no idea what we're talking about.
Come on. 2 handsome guys like us going over the Monday Night Wars from when they started in 1996 until they ended in the year 2000. You think that that's not going to be enjoyable for somebody who doesn't know enough about wrestling? Come on, Jer.
Maybe a few minutes of it, but we're in episode 55. If they've listened this far and have no interest in wrestling, I don't know.
Hey, man, sometimes you got to learn how to swim by jumping in the deep end, and Monday Night Pod is the deep end.
That's true. Anyway, Vince announces that they're actually airing an hour earlier this week, which he mentioned last week. So it's 8 p.m., I assume?
Yeah.
Must be. It's an odd episode to have a fucking gun when you go an hour earlier, but whatever. Anyway, our first match is Goldust with Marlena versus the Stalker, Barry Windham. This match goes 5 minutes and 30 seconds. There's a lot of stuff that happens that has nothing to do with the match, so let me just run through this.
You missed one part about it. It's a lumberjack match.
It isn't really. I'm getting to that. It's not a lumberjack match. It just turns into one, but it's not an official one.
How is
basically?
It not? I thought it was.
No, it just happened to play out that way, but it was not a lumberjack match.
I'm confused.
I'm almost positive it was. But anyway, what Adam's referring to is both guys come out with their Survivor Series teams. So King's Survivor Series team is going to be Goldust, Cross, Triple H, and Mr. Perfect, of course, is out there with him. And then the other team is going to be Mark Mero, Rocky Maivia, and Mark Henry, and Barry Windham.
You went over that really quickly because one of those names that you said in there is our first time on Monday Night Pod seeing that. And that's big.
Second time. We saw Rocky Maivia last week backstage. This is the first time we've seen The Rock in the ring.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
Speaking of The Rock, nice little plug here. I put up a little video on my Instagram Brunch Boys and YouTube Brunch Boys of me cosplaying as The Rock, cooking The Rock's French toast using his Terramana tequila. So if you are looking for a little infusion of the two things that I do, there it is.
Yeah, Jeremy somehow got his hands on The Rock's tequila. No one can find that stuff.
It took, the liquor store thought I was a crazy person because I went in there every day for 2 straight weeks looking for it. And they kept being like, well, recommend you another tequila. And I was like, no, I know. Like, it just has to be The Rock's. It's fine. I'll come back tomorrow.
Yeah, you sound like me trying to find Broken Skull IPA. I still have not successfully found Broken Skull IPA.
I guess if you guys know where to find it, let us know.
Please.
There you go. Anyway, we're gone off the rails so quickly here. Anyway, yeah, so both teams are outside. As Adam mentioned, it's not really a lumberjack match, but they act like that because they like toss guys back in the ring. But I think it just happened to be that they're both out there. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because no one pays attention to this match. It doesn't fucking matter what happens. Let's see here. Doc even cuts in to say that he spoke to Stone Cold and he's driving to Bowman's house. Stone Cold actually calls in then on the phone. He says that he's on the way. He says that he has a pack of whoop-ass riding shotgun with him. And King asks him about Pillman having a gun. Oh, boy. King gets up during the match. King gets up and moved during match 2 to go towards the ring away from Vince. We go to commercial. We come back and we see a badass Austin Survivor Series like promo commercial. It's really good. It's like black and white. And it's abandoned building. We also hear, I believe for the first time, like Stone Cold's real music, right?
I was going to say that. This is our first time to hear dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
Dun 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 dun.
And literally we come back from commercial and everyone's just in the ring and it's double DQ because the whole thing broke down. And we have talked more about that match than Vince and King did. So it is just stuff. It's one of these WWF things which we're going to see the rest of tonight. Just like stuff is happening in the ring just so they could talk about something else. It is a complete nothing match.
Yep, that's going to be a running theme throughout this episode tonight. Basically, nothing that happens in the arena matters at all. But we will go through it step by step.
Yeah, my only other note is I like Bear Wyndham's t-shirt. It was just black and it had like a gold outline of the old WWF block logo.
He's also
I would wear it.
Yeah, he's also got his facial hair is pretty wild at this point. He's got like real pointy mustache going out.
Yes,
beard.
It is weird. Anyway, I mean, if you want to see anything, The Rock dies off the top rope. That's cool. He has his first move ever in the WWF.
Yeah, cross bodies, 2 guys.
I do think it was weird though that like, again, it's this thing of like WWF always lying to us. Of like the story is always Rock made his debut at Survivor Series, which clearly he makes his in-ring debut at Survivor Series. He lied to us about that. But the way I envisioned it always was sort of like the way Kurt Angle made his debut, which is like little teases, and then here he is. No, just out of the blue, it's goddamn, it's Rocky Maivia.
Yeah.
But like that doesn't mean anything. You've told us nothing about him. We know nothing about him other than here's this guy and here's his name. You couldn't give us a fucking vignette. You couldn't come up with a story other than it's a babyface team and we found a new babyface. That's it.
I mean, without that even being told to us, but like,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I know they'll get there eventually, but do they just expect someone to recognize the name of High Chief Peter Maivia as Rocky
there's
Maivia?
no way.
Yeah,
I
know.
It's like it's odd.
Yeah, how many people?
And you look at him and you're like, God damn. Like I was thinking, I was like, if that dude debuted today, like we just like Raw started and this dude walks out, you would like not knowing about The Rock or anything. He would walk out and you'd be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know, like he just had that look and presence from the beginning.
Right. That's a big athletic looking dude who's gonna do something cool. Yeah.
Did you see Roman Reigns this recently?
Looks like he always does.
No, this dude is jacked as hell now.
He's
old. No, because here's the thing. It's like all these guys. It's like when Hunter goes away. It's like they don't do cardio. Like their cardio is always like what they have to do in the ring. So now there's no cardio, and you always like eat like shit on the road. This dude is just like eating clean, like putting up the fucking racks, he's looking monster. He wants to come back and be like, Vince, I'm not wearing that fucking vest.
I was gonna say
Vince is gonna see like the vascularity of Roman. He's like, oh god damn, take off that vest.
Yeah, whatever can get away from that vest, and then also so we can bury any memory of the Shield as far behind us as we can.
Well, we can't play much footage anymore, so.
Right. But just
the only footage you could play is when Kurt Angle was part of it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's zero chance that any kid can ever Google the Shield again because they might still see John Moxley, and then it's all over.
Yeah, Dean Ambrose. Next up, Doc is going to run down the Survivor Series card. So this is interesting. So they say it's an interview from the Big Bang Boom tour, which is their house show tour, but you literally see the Raw set. So I'm getting ahead of myself. They say, hey, we're going to go to this interview with Mankind, Paul Bearer, and the Executioner. In the middle of this, in the ring, them doing their thing, Taker's music hits. Taker's voice is now coming through the arena. And then a mysterious cage lowers down, a sharp cage. And in it, it's like an upside down dummy of Paul Bearer. And Taker's like, this is what I'm going to do to you, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I was confused on why, like, this is clearly taped where they were taping Raw, because you wouldn't have the Raw set built.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you just do this as part of the show, as opposed to being like, let's show you what happened this past weekend at the house show?
Right. Or as opposed to just doing any of like the random matches that we as opposed to doing Billy Gunn versus Freddie Joe Floyd last week. Like, let's.
Right.
Trump versus Aldo Montoya last week. Like,
yeah, and it's not like they were like, let's go back to Superstars this past week. It was literally, let's see this brand new footage from a house show, but we're not even going to really show you the whole thing. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Maybe they taped it live and then they wanted all this Austin shit and they're like, cut it. Just squeeze it down and pretend like it happened somewhere else.
Maybe, because it'd be hard. I mean, like, they even talked over a thing that happens later in the show that's not a match about the Austin stuff. This would have been a little hard to talk over about the Austin stuff unless it like replaced the last segment in the show, which we'll also get to. I can't remember if we mentioned this last week. I don't think we did because I had to look him up. The Executioner. You know who
I believe we mentioned that 2 weeks ago after because he debuted at the pay-per-view to bury Taker.
Right. I don't think we talked about who he was, though.
Oh. It's what's his face?
But I looked it up. It is Terry Gordy.
Yes, Terry Gordy, who is not in a great frame of mind.
No. But it's Terry Gordy of the Fabulous Freebirds.
Yes.
So, just...
He won't be there long, so I don't even think he makes it to Survivor Series, honestly. I think he was there for that taping, and that was it.
Yeah, probably.
Sadly. Anyway, yep, that's what happened there. So now we go back to Brian Pillman's house. He has a huge cast on his foot because remember he had more surgery, his ankle, whatever. He says Austin's crossed the line. So Kevin Kelly, this is gonna be another stupid one. Kevin Kelly is there to interview Brian Pillman. He's got the earpiece, he's got the microphone, he's talking back to Kevin to Brian. Vince starts asking fucking questions. And I'm assuming like, oh, maybe Kevin can hear him in his ear and then he'll ask. No, it's another magic scenario where Vince just talks and the audio comes from somewhere and magically Pillman could hear him. I know it's a big pet peeve of mine. I just think it's fucking stupid. Anyway, Vince asks about Austin he's like circling in a house. Pillman says Steve is a dead man walking and then he pulls out the gun. It's like, whoa.
It's in the thumbnail for the segment and everything like that. You know, like if you're watching on the network, you know what this is coming. But yeah, man, when he whips out a gun, that's like, holy shit.
And he's like, he had it there the whole time, but I guess no one saw it until he pulled it into frame of camera. As soon as it came to frame of camera, it's like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my bigger note was fuck Vince for sending Kevin Kelly there if he didn't let him do the interview.
Well, now you sound like
if Brian Pillman can, if Brian Pillman can magically hear Vince, and why do you send Kevin Kelly there? You don't even let him do his job, Vince.
You sound like good old JR right now.
Sent me all like goddamn Cincinnati.
Well, I guess, Vince McMahon, if you want to do the job yourself, then you should. God knows I'm not able to do the play-by-play like I was hired to do.
Anyway, next up, it's Karate Fighters Tournament. Sid versus Marlena. Sid wins. Who gives a shit? Until they
I don't know,
sponsor
man.
us,
I get to look
I
at
don't want to talk
Marlena.
anymore long.
Yeah, you get to stare at Marlena for a little while in this. So, like, yeah, I'm all right. Although I was rooting for her to beat Sid, but it wasn't meant to be.
Sid is the future face of the WWF. He can't be losing the first round of the goddamn Karate Fighters Tournament. We go back to Brian Pillman's house, and Austin is outside just like brawling and beating the shit out of Pillman's friends. Like, it is like, it's so real. It's shot real. It is not a fun beatdown. It is Austin like trying to drown someone, smashing the door into some guy's head. Like, it is intense shit.
Yeah, he jammed the guy's head in a car door and just shut up. This is we had a conversation about murders in professional wrestling, and there were attempted murders in this one. That is for sure.
Oh yes. The best is Vince is yelling. He's like, "Oh, this is a publicity stunt by Austin." It's like, what? Why would Austin want a publicity stunt? You want a publicity stunt. You produced that publicity stunt. Austin is trying to murder someone, and Pillman's trying to murder him. This isn't Austin being like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great thing for ratings." This is you, Vince, thinking it's gonna be great things for ratings, and he harps on this constantly. And like, does he not understand where the fourth wall is in the WWF, or like, what the fuck is happening here?
Again, Mr. Rock. These are the exact like beat for beat things that good old JR brought up on commentary next, where he's accusing Vince of like that, like this would be great for him if Austin did get shot, and then if he had talked to Austin and knew he was in the area, wanted to do something. But Vince didn't stop it because Vince wants something crazy to happen for the ratings. Like, JR specifically said all of those points.
That's true.
Well,
let's get to that. Next up, it's the Pug versus Sultan with Backlund and Sheiky. The match goes 2 minutes. Vincent King just ignored the whole thing, and eventually the Sultan locks on the camel clutch for the win.
Yeah, it's very jarring to go from the reality craziness of the Pillman situation to the Sultan, and it's very cartoony. And I mean, yeah, it's funny that a psychotic Bob Backlund is yelling about how the Sultan will be WWF champion, and they don't really like let him yell because they're talking over him during it. You're just hearing like the arena mic. You're not hearing the mic fed into into the feed. But yeah, that's it. Sultan, squash, Alex Porto, have a nice camel clutch, I guess.
Great. We go back to Brian Pillman's house again. He's sitting there with his gun. Like, what's going on? Where's Austin? Austin literally breaks through the door, glass shatters. That's where it comes from. I'm going to say that. Comes through the kitchen door. Pillman has his gun pointing right at him. He's like, it's like locked and ready to go. And the feed goes down right when Austin's about to get there, and we go to commercial. Oh boy.
Yeah.
We come back for a commercial, and the feed is still down.
What happened? What happened? He was pointing a gun right at him. He was ready to shoot him.
I don't know. We're going to have to find out a little bit later. We go to the ring as JR brings out Sid and HBK for a face-to-face. They have like a little face-to-face WWF podium. They talk about, JR brings up Sid turning on HBK in 1995. Sean says that he forgave him and got him out of the loony bin. Sid screams that was bullshit, which they bleep. Sid,
do you think that was purposeful in the script, or do you think that was just?
Yeah, I think this is the week of like, let's push it, pal.
I see. I don't know
because it's taped. I think they would have cut around it if they really didn't want it.
Maybe. I mean, they did beep it, but like, Sid was kind of infamous for that kind of stuff, for just like yelling and going off script, and
that's true.
And saying that he was going to start over, even though, right? We're live, Sid. All that kind of stuff.
Well, my favorite part of this though is then Sid calls JR Fatso, and the crowd just erupts.
I remember when he called Vader Fat Boy. I mean, man, Sid looks like $1 million. Like, let's be real. I was thinking about this.
I was looking. What are these muscles? Like
traps.
Traps. Oh, I saw his traps. I was like, God damn! Like, how?
Yeah,
How?
he's got the biggest.
What do I have to do? Like, what do you even work to get? Like, just like shrugs? Is that how you get the traps? I don't get it.
He's got the biggest traps I've ever seen in my life. I was trying to I was watching this and I had the thought, because they're not too dissimilar, the two of them. Who had a better physique in their prime? Psycho Sid or Lex Luger?
I think that Lex was more showy, obviously. He had a much more like bodybuilders thing. But I think pound for pound, Sid was probably more muscular and bigger.
Yeah, Sid looks more like a Greek god than, as much as
Lex was more defined.
Yeah, overall, but
more shredded.
Yeah. Sid looks more like, going with the Psycho Sid character. He looks more like a murderer in a comic book or something like that. Just a mountain of muscle.
Right. Anyway, they start screaming. They knock down the stupid podium. They start to shove each other as Owen, Davey, Vader, and as Corny, Owen, Davey, Vader, and Clarence Mason come out to surround the ring. They start fighting. Owen comes in, nails Sid in the back, and then turns around, and Owen's not in there, and he sees Shawn holding the chair because Shawn had grabbed it from Owen, and he's like, "Oh, well, you." The official. Then they try and go after each other. Officials hold them back. My thing with this, not that it was very good. And yes, Vince tries to get out of this too. Like literally, Shawn, your WWF champion, is talking, and Vince's like, "Is the feet back up? We gotta go. Get out of here."
Yeah.
And like, "Oh, it's not back up. Okay." But like these two are about to implode, right? Corny stops them from imploding. Doesn't he want them to hate each other? Right as they're about to go at each other, Corny comes out to be the person they can go up against. Like, doesn't it defeat the purpose of what Corny's trying to do of get these guys to kill each other?
Also, isn't Corny still mad at Clarence Mason for stealing his tag team champions? Like,
yes, I thought that too. Of like, why are they all out there together? Maybe they're just
forgot
about it.
We're all heels. Like, let's just heal it up together. Like, yeah, that was weird.
I mean, it was fine for what these type of segments could be. It was fine. It's the little tiny, drip of the explosion that will be Shawn and Sid at Survivor Series. So, I mean, I'm okay with it.
Very much so. I totally agree. And I like the things that they've been using, the little pieces they've been using to tease Sid and Shawn, putting a little wedge in between them. So, yeah, it's moving along at a good pace.
Yeah. We come back and we see more replays of what happened at Brian Pillman's house earlier. If you're watching on YouTube. Mark Miro, next up, it's Mark Miro Sable versus Big Razor.
Not quite. This is what I was going to make a point for. Because if you're watching on the network, it's going to tell you, like back when it would say like, Sting appears in WCW magazine kind of thing. It says WWF Full Metal album commercial.
But we saw that commercial last week. That's why I skipped it, Adam.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
when we see the same things every week, I got to skip. Those are the rules of the podcast. But tell us your story anyway.
There's a dancing kid around with Freddie Blassie in it, right? The kid was somebody who we actually worked with in the WWE tape library.
Well, Adam, I happen to have Raw playing right in front of me here, and I'm right there. So let me pull this up here. Give me a second.
Basically, there was a in the commercial, it's like a like a little 6-year-old bopping around.
Right, here we go. Yeah, I'm watching right now. He's shirtless.
Right. He's dressed as different wrestlers, right?
Yes.
That kid was somebody who we actually worked with in the WWE tape library when he was like now 21 years old, working there, going through everything, logging everything.
I don't have a clue who you're talking about.
Basically, his whole family has worked in production at WWE forever, and so when they needed a little kid who can bounce around.
I have a very similar story I'm about to tell you once we get to this next match. Isn't that crazy?
That is quite crazy. I wonder if it's about Kerwin.
It is. Anyway, next up, matches Mark Mero Sable versus Fake Razor and Fake Diesel. This match goes 8 minutes and 30 seconds. But once again, nobody's going to pay attention to this match because it is fucking garbage. Anyway, but let's run through what happens because a lot goes on. JR joins commentary. And yes, Adam, as Adam alluded to earlier, this is when Vince and JR are literally like fighting with each other. King tries to get in the middle of them because...
They get really into it here. Like, this is the most that they've gotten into it that we've heard, and it feels real. It's pretty cool.
I bet you it was real. I bet you they had this fight earlier in the day about all this gun shit, and Vince is like, go with it, pal. Anyway, yeah, so because the feed is still down, Curran Silfies calls in. I'm assuming the first time Curran Silfies has appeared in any way, shape, or form on an episode of WWF. He is, of course, like a director, a producer. I don't know what he would have been doing at the time, but he was clearly producing this segment.
I think they said that he was like the director of Raw or the technical.
It did. I didn't think that was right. I think they just like picked something because fuck them, stupid idiots.
What a producer is.
Right, exactly. Anyway, he says that basically what happened was Pillman pulls out the gun and all the power goes down. The truck went down. The house went down. There's no power anywhere. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. They're like, King is just screaming like, is Austin there? Is anybody shot? What's going on? He's like, I heard explosions. I don't know if that was a gun. I don't know if that was something. The crew is spooked. They don't even want to go try to fix what's going on. Everyone's just terrified. So we go to commercial, come back from commercial. Curran is still on the phone. Vince questions why police aren't there. Curran says that he called the police, but like they're in the middle of nowhere, which sure, they're in like, sure, whatever. The sticks, they're in, where are they? Tennessee? Where the fuck are they?
Well, he flew into Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, right.
No. They flew into Cincinnati, Ohio, but Pillman actually lived in Kentucky. So
because it's the border there.
Okay. Yeah. It's just like the closest international airport that someone can go and rent a car from.
Right. So anyway, so he's on the phone, and then we hear him screaming and hang up the phone. Oh boy. This is when Vince and JR really get into it. Hunter and Mr. Perfect come down as we head into another commercial. Yes, a second commercial break for a match that nobody's paying attention to and is fucking god-awful. We come back, and it's a Razor's Edge and a clean win for Fake Razor over Mark Mero, which is just, oof. Mark Mero. Jeez.
Like, if there's any proof that this guy is dead and buried, like, my God, a clean loss like that. Like, I can't think this should go down as one of the all-time greats as far as being dead and buried.
Yes. My two things about the Curran, there were one, that's where Curran White Chavagura gets the name from. It was just a joke on Curran Selfies, I guess. And then, didn't his daughter work with us, or is that another person's in the company?
Oh, I don't know.
Whose daughter worked with us? It was like a director. I want to say it was Curran's daughter.
Maybe. I don't remember Sylphies or anything like that. Maybe I gotta go through my 2010 emails and see who was all on our things that went out.
Yeah, that was why I remember it. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's why I remember. And I'm not afraid to name names in this podcast.
Carlucci.
Anyway,
you remember,
what's that?
You remember Carlucci?
No, I don't remember anything.
Uh,
I only remember my brain is just full of wrestling. I don't remember anything else that happened there. Just the wrestling knowledge is in my brain.
That's fair. I was much more friends with everybody than you were.
I was trying to work, Adam. It was a job.
I know. I forced Jeremy. It's something we've talked about for 10 years with everybody. Jeremy had no interest. Yeah, Jeremy had no interest in making new friends, and I was like, nope, me and this guy, we're gonna be pals.
I was there to make money, Adam.
Mm-hmm. I know.
So much money.
I know. You fucked up. $10 an hour for 35 hours a week? Yes. Paper.
Now, 34 and a half, Adam. Once we hit 35, we would have had to get insurance.
They gave you 4.5 more hours than they gave me?
Yes. That's why, actually, I was able to... That's why I say that I've watched more wrestling than anybody else, because I was able to work more hours than anybody else.
Okay.
And I did it really fast because I sped through shit.
Same.
Anyway, next up, we see another replay of Austin breaking in. This time we go back live, and everyone, like all Pillman's friends are there, is holding Pillman back. Kevin Kelly says that nobody has been shot, thank God. And then, oh my God, Austin's back. We hear Pillman lock the gun into position, and King yells for King's like, Kevin, grab the gun. Kevin, grab the gun. It's like, King, are you fucking crazy? And we go off the air just with pure chaos, and we have no idea what's happening. But yeah, I love King. Yeah, Kevin Kelly's. Yeah, jump in there and grab the gun. Why don't you do that, big man?
Yeah, just grab a loaded gun out of someone's hand. That's a great plan, especially when you're just like a doughy little interviewer like Kevin Kelly. I'm sure he's well versed in hand-to-hand combat. It's CQC.
But yeah, that's Raw. We go off the air of like, will somebody die? Tune in next week.
Chaotic, interesting, significant. Don't know if it's a great episode of television, though. I was going to put this in my mind.
Yeah, same. I think it's one of those where if we were truly in the mindset of someone in 1996, the impact of it would have meant so much more. Because at 1996, we didn't have reality TV. Still in 1996, the only reality shows you had were Real World. And this episode of Raw was taped like a reality show, which would have been very jarring to viewers.
Right.
A few things I think we're interested in. One, the way that WWF tells a story, or my interpretation of this episode, was always that it led up to Pillman pulling the gun, and as soon as he pulls the gun, like the feed cuts out and the episode airs. Like that's the way they tell it, but like Pillman chose the gun throughout, because the story goes pretty much like USA sees this happening, calls Vince, and they're like, we are fighting to keep Raw in the air right now because everybody at USA or whatever they're owned by at the time, I forget, it was NBC or G, whatever. They're like, they want to cancel your show because of this, because they are fucking pissed. So the story in my mind is always that at the last second, Pillman pulls that fucking gun and everyone's like, oh shit, and it cuts out and whatever. But the entire episode, they tease this gun, which is like, I do not think that anyone executive at USA is watching the show live. They're not. And I believe at this time, it was probably Bonnie Hammer, who's USA executive, who's now in charge of everything at NBC, pretty much. She wasn't watching live. But there has to be somebody, even in the USA control room, watching this, being like, at 8:15, they could have called her and been like, yo, you need to figure this out right now because we have 45 minutes left. Nobody said anything. You would think if it was such a big deal, they would have called Vince to be like, do not show that fucking gun again in this episode. Instead, they show it 1,000 more times. So it's interesting the way that WWF tells the story, which is not really the way it played out. And interesting the response of it, which is that if it really was such a big deal, why didn't they pull the plug while it was live? Why did they wait till afterwards to blow a gasket and threaten to cancel Raw?
Yeah. Those are all very interesting points. And the point, another question or another thought I was getting at early in the show that I didn't want to say right now or right then because I didn't want to spoil, the show live for our listeners and viewers who have not seen it before or experiencing it through our golden voices here. Of the two guns that I've seen on WWF, this one and when Stone Cold held the gun at Vince McMahon in the middle of the ring and Vince pissed himself. Now, the difference being in those two guns is the gun that Vince pointed in the middle or got pointed at in the middle of the ring, is a fake gun because when he shot it, the little bang flag came, right? So a confirmation that there was never a real gun pointed at somebody in that segment by the end of it. Mm-hmm. This one, that is not the case. We go off the air with that having been a real gun that was pointed.
He cocks it multiple times, which I don't really understand how guns work, but when you cock it, you don't have to shoot it?
No, you don't have to. It's just...
But you could recock it without shooting? Like I hear him click it like 3 times.
Yes, I think you could because it clears the bullet from the chamber. We need to get my brother on the pod.
Oh, you think it just maybe like moves it around?
It ejects whatever's in the ball at that point. So I think it could eject. I think it does eject a bullet if the bullet hasn't been shot. Otherwise, it just ejects the casing.
Right. Okay.
And it puts the next one up in there.
Well, yeah, that's Raw. I mean, yes, like the in arena stuff is garbage. Like they could have tried. They could have tried something. It's an interesting approach. I mean, I understand the bigger story of all of this is Austin and Pillman. The same way it was last week. It's an interesting approach to Raw. It's interesting the change in Austin in just 2 weeks of, again, we spoke about this last week of it's the Austin show. Guess what? It's the Austin show again. And like seeing him is like, oh shit. Like, I don't know what changed, but they were just like, let's just go for it.
Yeah.
And yes, it still takes another year and a half to put the strap on him. Part of that is the plan, the way WrestleMania's work, and obviously he gets hurt in between all this anyway, but like they made clear they were ready to cut away from Shawn Michaels to go to Austin in this show. They made clear who the star of the show was, and it was nobody that was in that arena that night.
Right, and it's interesting too because he's not even like the good guy in this, right? Like they're building their show around the antagonist here,
which is what WCW is doing, so it's not unprecedented, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. But yeah, all right. Well, exciting top to bottom, I gotta say. Yeah, at least one story was throughout that.
Yes.
But I think,
and I liked the story. I liked what they're doing of having the story play out through the episode. I think like they've got away from that past 25 years, but generally, where it's kind of nice to see like that this is what teased and this is what plays out, and that's the conclusion of the show is one long story, which is kind of fun as opposed to everything just getting one little segment.
Yeah, 3-hour Raws will generally kind of do that with like the champion or whoever they want to focus on that night. But it's
right. Maybe they'll open the show and maybe they'll close the show, but it's not really a storyline. It's him coming out, cutting some stupid promo. Yeah. Someone interrupts him and then they have a match.
Yeah, they'll open the show and then they'll do like maybe they'll do 2 backstage segments throughout the 3 hours and then close the show. But yeah, well, as interesting as Raw was, it wouldn't be a Monday Night War if there wasn't an opposing side. So,
no, let's go to where the hell are they? The Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is episode number 60 of Nitro. Tony and Larry open the show, and we see Sting is in the rafters, and Giant Ted and Vincent are in the stands. They're not at ringside this week. Tony and Larry are actually at the announcer desk, whatever you want to call it, for the first time. They previewed the show and show off the new Ladies Championship because the Ladies Championship tournament will begin tonight. They also announced that Eric Bischoff is not here. He is in Portland trying to sign Hot Rod to WCW. So we'll check on that.
Yeah. Also, that belt is pretty sweet.
I wish we could like get a closer look at it. I remember I've looked for details on that belt before randomly.
Yeah.
Pretty much the only photo of it is like the screen grab from like the few episodes of Nitro that talk about it. There's like literally no photos of this belt anywhere, which is crazy. I wonder if like Medusa has it or something.
You should hit her up.
Speaking of that, I tweeted at Justin Roberts. Apparently, he has nothing better to do, so he can't get back, or he has too many things to give. He can't get back to us this answer.
Jerk, I say.
It's a simple question. This is you or not.
You know, I don't know what he's hiding, but clearly it's something. Justin, don't be so afraid. This is safe territory right here. We're not going to ask you the hardball questions. We're not going to ambush interview you. Was you in front of Dick in the shot? Yeah, you know.
I just said it's this you, but whatever. Anyway, first matchup. It's Brad Armstrong versus Marcus Bagwell, Scotty Riggs. This match goes 7 minutes and 30 seconds. I mean, like, I know I probably say this every time they come out.
Oh, wait, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, how in the hell are Marcus and Scotty Riggs over? Because they're over. And I don't get it.
And this match is pretty over, too. I mean, even Brad Armstrong's over. But, like, I got to say, this is a good match.
Yeah, my note was not bad, but how is this a finish? Because Marcus just hits a crossbody. Like, not even like a flying crossbody. He just jumps crossbody and pins him for the win. I'm like,
I mean, that's like
the first move in a match.
But they're running at each other really fast with it. And, like, boom. Like, it's kind of like, it's almost like one of those double crossbody kind of things. But, yeah, Bagwell gets it. Weird for a finish, yeah. But Bagwell had a couple of cool moves in this match. He had there was one move I really liked where he was on the apron and he grabbed the top rope and he pulled back and he slingshot himself over and
Mm-hmm.
catches Armstrong with the clothesline. And like, man, these guys were going like from the start, boom, 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 and like the crowd was hot, and I like it. This is a good way to start the show.
Yeah, it was interesting that, again, I'm thinking back to the time, if Raw is an hour earlier this week, then does that mean this first hour of Nitro is going head to head with Raw?
I think so, because we had figured out that it's usually the second hour that.
Right, yeah. So it's interesting that
Yeah.
this would be the first match then if you're concerned at all about it, which they, I guess,
Yeah, but they did show Sting, right? They did show the NWO presence.
They teased a lot. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so there's pieces in play for this that are meaningful enough.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And again, a good match.
Yep. Next up, it's DDP versus Ice Train with Teddy Long. This match goes 6 minutes and 30 seconds. Ice Train kicks out and DDP flies up and lands in the back of Nick Patrick. Of course, because Teddy Long's out there, Nick Patrick is the ref. Guess what the finish is going to be? Nick Patrick starts counting slow counts for Ice Train from then on because his back is hurting him. Ice Train close on DDP on the outside. Patrick goes to check on DDP, and the Outsiders run in and start just beating the shit out of Ice Train with their championship belts, just like whacking him. Ice Train pretty much no-sells this, which is interesting because normally that would knock someone out cold. He no-sells it, but then that distraction allows DDP to get back in and hit the Diamond Cutter for the win.
Yeah, because the Diamond Cutter is the real thing right there.
Not taking 10 pounds of gold and slamming it. And like now that I have my championship belt, I know how heavy, and this isn't even like the official championship belt. This is even the replica. That shit is heavy. If that thing, if someone hit me in the head of my belt, I would be out cold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope for one day when this is all over to be able to feel your championship belts. But yeah, I could see exactly what you mean. But you know, Ice Train is a beast, and hey, the Diamond Cutter is over. So no one kicks out of the Diamond Cutter.
Nope.
And you know, honestly, yeah. I liked this match too. I thought like even before like the clustery kind of finish, like I thought there was some good stuff in here. I thought the guys were working really well, and I thought like the crowd was still hot. Like
crowd is hot.
Nitro's moving around. This Nitro's moving along quite well.
Yeah, my other note, which I thought was funny, was obviously we talk about this every week about DDP's music. Sometimes, I guess it depends on who is editing this episode and who like actually wanted to do work. Sometimes we just hear it go silent and we know like, oh, they cut around to it because they didn't want to clean up the audio. Whoever edited this episode for Network like did fucking work, because what they did was they tried to isolate the announcer's track, get rid of all the background noise, and then to cover up the background noise, they jacked up the commentary track and played DDP's fake music. Because if you listen while DDP is coming out to his music, the announcer's voice are like 5 decibels higher than the normal, and as soon as the music cuts off, they go back to normal. So appreciate the effort for once in one of these episodes. They couldn't just cut around the commentary. They did work. So
they often do. I've noticed they put in more work for cutting around DDP's music than they do for like who's the other guys? The other tag team suddenly losing me. Rocco LaRock, Johnny Grunge, Public Enemy. Yeah. Because there's a couple of times that we've heard Public Enemy's music and it's just flat nothing. No announcers.
I guess DDP is the Hall of Famer. He deserves it.
It's true. It's very true.
Next up, WCW Cruiserweight Championship is on the line. Scotty Riggs and Marcus Bagwell are back out here because it's Scotty Riggs versus Dean Malenko. Psychosis is out there.
WCW title, Cruiserweight title.
Yes.
But again, we have to like. Scotty Riggs has a WCW Cruiserweight title match.
Oh, about his weight. I was thinking like, is that his weight? But I was like, 215. Maybe it's pretty short.
Not just about his weight, but like also.
Why he has a cruiserweight match?
Scotty Riggs.
Well, they've won. I mean, I feel like they've at least won some matches here. You know what I mean,
yes, and I know that WCW had a million shows, so you should never assume anything. But like, this is very much in the same trappings of what we were talking about with like, why is Juventud Guerrera getting all these title matches out of nowhere? Like, is anybody is there any form for like who qualifies for these things? I can't imagine there was like a big cruiserweight tournament that we didn't see where Scotty Riggs won it.
Yeah. His wiki here tells me that he is 6 feet tall.
Okay.
That's probably a lie also. It says he's 255 pounds, but that I believe would be more of his current weight, and he's probably put on a few. So maybe he could have been that skinny in 1996.
Maybe. Well, regardless whether or not he qualified for the title match on his weight, I'm just curious about like why one half of a tag team has this title match. But I think we'll understand a little bit more of that by the end of this match.
Sure. Well, here we go. Like as I said, Psychosis out there watching match 6 is also in the stands watching. The match ends on a big Scotty's on top rope. Dean goes into rope, shakes it, so Scotty falls down to the outside. Marcus Bagwell, for some reason, just picks him up and throws him right back into the ring, and Dean rolls him up for the pin. What did you think was going to happen, Marcus Bagwell, when you threw your injured tag team partner right back into the ring after you hurt himself?
Here's my thought, though, viewing it live, not knowing where this goes. Are we planting the seeds of the American males breaking up because they see that Bagwell is clearly the Shawn Michaels of those two?
Ew, Adam, that should never come out of your mouth.
I mean, of those two, of the American males. I mean, I guess it's better to say that, Riggs is the Jannetty there, but like, you know what I mean?
I'd rather say like, is Marcus Bagwell the Bubba Ray Dudley of the tag team?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the announcers try and play it off as that he was worried about him being counted out or something. It was just, as I said, it was a big But yeah. Next up, Chris Benoit with Woman versus Hector Guerrero. This match goes 10 minutes. We hear from Jimmy Hart and Kevin Sullivan backstage because once again, Benoit and Sullivan are feuding. They will face off. Coming up, hour 2 begins in the middle of the match. Then at the end of the match, sees Woman jumps in, grabs Hector's hair to distract him. She goes back out. He turns around and is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And Benoit rolls him up for the win, as well as putting his feet on the ropes. So rolls him up, puts his feet on the ropes, gets the win.
Now I want to talk about this match for a second because this was an awesome match. And Hector Guerrero, I mean, we haven't seen Hector before, is freaking great. And like,
yeah, like you squint your eyes and you're like, Eddie?
Yeah, old Eddie, maybe? Like,
old, more lanky.
No, is he Chavo's dad?
No, Chavo Sr. is Chavo's dad.
Okay, all right.
So they're all brothers.
But I was just watching this, and I was seeing, like, there were some spots in this match. I mean, Hector is almost as sharp as Eddie in all of his spots. It's really impressive, and he had some really cool offense throughout this that I was watching. I was like, I don't see anybody else doing the Kiwi leg roll like he does. Mm-hmm. I don't see anyone else doing this thing where, like, he puts Benoit on the top rope laying downwards, right? Like, Benoit's stomach is facing the ground. And he, like, goes on his back under the turnbuckle with his legs up and just kicks him up for, like,
right, yes, like, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom, boom.
It bounces in 10 spot. It's like, these spots are awesome. I've never seen anyone else do these spots. Why is there not some young kid who's stealing this? I mean, maybe there is that we just don't know about. But, like, somebody should be using these things. Somebody should be studying some Hector Guerrero tapes and stealing some stuff because he was great. This match is really good.
Do you know what Hector Guerrero was known as in the WWF?
Oh, God. He was the gobbledygooker, wasn't he?
Yes, he was the gobbledygooker.
Oh, boy.
Could have been that first Hispanic, or I guess second Hispanic face that Vince was looking for. But no, dress him up with like a goddamn turkey or whatever he was. A bird. Gobbledygooker.
Crazy. And you know what?
I guess
Well, I was gonna say, what's even like more wild about like all that story at this point, 30 years later, is like you think about it and like that Vince McMahon made the decision to put the guy in the turkey costume, and like as they've said, like, or as has been said, like he wasn't doing it ironically, like he thought it would get over. Mm-hmm. And like it sounds so fucking ridiculous, but if you know like if you've been studying Vince McMahon for all these years of the choices that he makes, that's not far-fetched at all.
Well, I mean, also remember who else debuted on that same show?
Same show.
Survivor Series 1990.
1990. The Undertaker.
Yes.
Yes.
So he debuted 2 ridiculous characters. One was literally a dead person, and one was the gobbledygooker. So one stuck, you know? The Undertaker didn't stick. We would have been making fun of that just as much.
I do find it one of the bizarre things in like the large picture of wrestling history that like Undertaker debuted with Brother Love as his manager.
Mm-hmm.
That like just in the
He debuted because Ted DiBiase hired him for his team.
Right. But just in like the pantheon of silliness, like the Brother Love and the Undertaker next to each other, like obviously Paul Bearer and the Undertaker next to each other. It's like, oh yeah, that's the thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Love and the Undertaker. It all worked out in the end.
And I think it would have been, other than Bruce saying he didn't want to do it.
It would have been him forever, you're saying?
Well, not forever, but they had no intention of bringing Paul. It wasn't like, oh yeah, we don't really like this. Bruce is like, I don't really want to be on the road and like do this shit every day. We just find someone else for him. And they found Paul Bearer.
Percy Pringle.
There you go. Next up, we see Giant stands with the U.S. title. Of course, that's Ric Flair's belt. Mike Tenay is interviewing Jeff Jarrett, who's there with Mongo, Deborah Woman, and Benoit on the stage. Jeff Jarrett starts talking about what he's going to do at NWO. Mongo and Benoit are very upset that Jarrett is speaking on behalf of the Horsemen. They say that you don't talk about, we handle our shit. Don't you, pretend like you're on a horseman, blah, blah, blah. So they walk away. Jeff talks about taking on the NWO as Sting returns into the stands. Jeff makes a lot of like sports references. He talks about like footballs and stuff. And
can you believe Mongo wasn't the one to talk about football?
That's true. Of all the people that were talking about football, it was not Mongo. It was Jeff Jarrett making all these stupid references.
I got a good laugh out of when Jeff Jarrett started. He's talking about everybody in WCW and how they've been failing to address the NWO because of a lack of leadership and all that, and he refers to the Nasty Boys as 2 fat. What do you call them? Fat dough boys. Yeah.
Next up, back to the desk. It's Tony Tenay, and Bobby. To talk about Sting and possibility of Hogan versus Hot Rod. That's obviously what Eric is trying to get signed. Lee Marshall, 1-800 collect on the road report. He's in St. Petersburg, Florida. Cool. Next up is the first rounds of the Women's Championship Tournament to crown a first ever champion. It's Reina Jabuki versus Medusa. This match goes 3 minutes. During match 0, another new Japanese female competitor comes out to Sonny Ono to watch. Sonny Ono makes fun of Medusa's fake boobs, and Medusa hits a German suplex to win.
Yeah. Reina Jabuki has a really cool look. Like, she's got like all these feathers and a mask and colors. Like, she has a look that would fit in any era of wrestling.
Yeah, she looked like a special Rey Mysterio outfit.
Yes. Female special Rey Mysterio. And she had like, I mean, as per usual with like a Medusa match, like they're going from the start. Like they're going at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And Jabuki, some of her offense is she's just biting her fingers, which is really cool. I liked all that. They packed a lot into the 3 minutes here, and I was pretty all right with it.
Same. I'm looking forward to the rest of the Women's Championship Tournament. They gave us no brackets. They did not tell us how many people are in this tournament. They gave us no specifics on when the end of the tournament was, other than here's a fucking tournament. So
yeah, that's
cool.
right.
It's a very Vince thing to do. Next up, it's M Wall Street versus Chris Jericho. Why do they call him M Wall Street?
Because we talked about this a while ago. Because VK was a rib.
No, I understand, but why M Wall Street?
Oh,
why can't he be his name, Michael? Who's named M Wall Street? What is that a reference to? Is it I don't understand.
Maybe someone could be confused with Money Wall Street, but like, Bobby the Brain is yelling like "kick out Mike" during this match.
Yeah, why wouldn't you just call him Michael Wall Street?
Yeah.
You think it's a reference we just don't understand?
Or like some kind of rib, some kind of inside thing.
Sure it is. Anyway, yeah, he's facing Chris Jericho. His match goes 6 minutes 45 seconds. You know, I hate M Wall Street, VK Wall Street, whatever you're gonna call him. Was it better because Jericho is in there? Yeah, it was. Was it still too long and boring? Yeah, it was. Jericho wins with a small package roll up for the win.
At the very least, Jericho is super over as a baby face. So like
Lionheart.
Oh yeah. So like as boring as the match is, like, which by the way, Lionheart is one. I mean, I know I'm a total Chris Jericho mark, and I've been forever, but like Lionheart is like one of my favorite names for somebody ever in wrestling. I think that's such a cool name. But like, yeah, if you're gonna have M Wall Street like kind of boringing it up out there, you know, at least have the crowd into it, and they were.
They were hot all night, to be fair. Next up, Tony introduced Nick Patrick and his lawyer. Jericho was walking back to the locker room and stops by to join in. Jericho again says that nothing's wrong with Nick Patrick. He accuses him of being part of the NWO. The lawyer says that he goes, Jericho, wasn't your dad a goon in the NHL? Jericho's like, nothing to do with it. Teddy comes out and accuses him of not stopping the Outsiders from attacking Ice Train earlier. Now Ice Train's all beat up. The lawyer brings up the point that Teddy was suspended as a ref, and Teddy's like, duh. Chris says that is about here and now. Don't worry about what happened to Teddy in the past.
Perfect. Jericho's playing his part perfectly in this one because, you know, he was caught up in the Nick Patrick interviews last week too. At least they're like kind of going in a direction with this now, and it's like you can see where it's going. I'm into it.
Next up, it's Booker T with Sherry versus Lex Luger. This match goes 6 minutes. We get a little pre-recorded message from Lex as the match is beginning, talking about trying to reach out to Sting. Here we go. So Power Slam, I think he's going to go for the rack, but Booker is able to hold onto the ropes. At that point, Colonel Robert Parker comes out. Now remember, Colonel Robert Parker is the reason they lost the tag team belts, or supposedly lost the belts. So Booker is going to go what looks to be the Harlem Hangover, but he sees Parker, jumps down. Parker gets up on the ring apron. Booker goes shaking, like, what the hell are you doing out here? Like, get out of here. That distraction allows Lex to hit Booker in the back of the head and pin him for the win.
Yeah, just kind of like a running forearm to the back of the head. Yeah. I mean, hey, as you were talking about this crowd being hot all night, this crowd is white piping hot for Lex Luger, man. Like everybody in there is on their feet. Booker and Luger are putting in a pretty good match right here. There's like a couple of cool spots throughout. I liked Luger's suplex that he had on Booker in the middle of the ring, you know, like a delayed vertical suplex. And Booker was really bringing, like, he put his working boots on as far as his hook, his wheel kicks and everything like that. Because he's turning them hips, man, getting those kicks in throughout all this. Man, I like this. If this is your wrestling main event for tonight, this is a good match.
Yeah, it was good. Two solid guys. They're always fun to watch. No problema with it at all. Next up, Eric's on the phone. He says that things are going great with Piper. The problem is that agents and attorneys are getting in the way. So there's no deal yet. He's going to go fly to, be on set with him, trying to get him signed. They're very close. It's just, one of those things. You got to get it worked out. It's not easy.
Yeah, that's exciting. Exciting as it is. The show is kind of coming to a screeching halt at this point.
Yeah, let me run through the end of the show, and then we'll discuss something.
Yeah.
Next up, we get an entire replay of the Piper thing from Slim Jim Presents Halloween Havoc, like 15 minutes of it. I skipped right past it because we saw it last week.
Yeah, we saw the whole thing replayed last week as well.
We come back to the ring, and Hogan, Ted, and Giant and Vincent are out there. Hogan gets spotlight again. Hogan says that talks about the Cable Ace Awards and wanting to be nominated and being pissed off if he's not, and threatening to show up anyway, and calling out Ted Turner. Then moves on to Piper and says that the Piper's scared to face him. Another nothing promo and then Ted goes, yeah, Hogan pose, and Hogan rips off his shirt and flexes.
Hogan also said that Santa with Muscles was coming out this week and it was going to destroy the box office.
Of course.
Yeah.
Adam,
beginning of November for the Santa movie to come out. I thought they could have waited a couple extra weeks, but whatever.
you got to get that holiday rush early, let me ask something. When you were watching this, did you get a sense of deja vu?
Yeah,
Because let me tell you what the last couple segments were of last week's episode Nitro. Nick Patrick gets interviewed on the rampway with Chris Jericho and Teddy Long. Lex Luger faces Sting. We get an entire replay of Hot Rod versus Hot Rod doing the promo. Booker T. Sorry, not Sting. Yes, of course. Sorry, my bad. And then Hulk Hogan cuts a spotlight interview in the ring talking about nothing. Literally the exact same last half an hour for 2 weeks in a row. What the fuck was that?
Well, we got an actual finish for Booker T versus Luger, but yes, this is a misuse of the NWO.
Misuse of my time.
Though that too, because what happened? We saw them do some action. We saw, and they hocked a T-shirt at us during the episode.
Uh-huh.
But we're the outsiders.
Well,
right?
they were there. The outsiders attacked Ice Train.
No, I know. As I said, we saw them do something.
Uh-huh.
But the NWO, when it was when it rocked the world, was because it was Hogan, Hall, and Nash, right?
But as we've learned, that was only that way for 2 weeks.
Yes. But this is another thing about lying about the history of stuff. The way that they tell those stories, you'd think that those guys were the ones who were crushing it for a year with just a couple of NWO guys maybe floating around. But no, it's become wholly the Hogan show at that point.
Yeah, I didn't care. And it was interesting. Maybe it was just we're not going head-to-head in the second hour, so who gives a shit? We have big names. Just redo it again. It did well last week. Why change it? And a rating crush last week. Giving them the same thing again.
Right. Well, they really think that there's a demand for Piper and Hogan.
Which I believe there was. And honestly, it is pretty a hot feud, Hogan and Piper. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Eric stuff too. I just don't know why you do the same exact promo, the same exact slot, in the same exact way, in the same exact whatever. If anything, I guess it was a little shorter, so I'll take that. But they also replayed the entire Piper thing again.
Yeah, that part I don't so much.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah, as if you missed it the last 2 weeks, because at this point you've had even if you weren't looking up tapes or replaying something, you've had 2 times to see it, and that's conservative because there's no way that they didn't play that on WCW Saturday Night.
Well, Saturday Night is now the NWO show, so maybe not, but maybe on main events and maybe on all their other dumb, stupid shows.
I don't know. It's Hogan focused, so you don't think that they would?
Sure, maybe they did. But the NWO produces that show, so who knows that?
Yeah, maybe. Well, that is, as you said, Nitro.
That was Nitro.
That's kind of your feeling? It's the end of the show left a sour taste in your mouth?
I thought it was all fine. I think the stuff that was good was fine.
Really?
I don't think there's anything. Yeah, the Hector Guerrero thing was interesting.
I really like that.
Go check it out. Yeah, go check it out. But
I thought
I don't think
the show was really good. Up until it was really good up until Jericho Wall Street. Then it was just kind of fine. Then Luger and Booker was good, and then again just a soft land.
Yeah. Not for me, but America decided that. And as we know, we're in the middle of 83 weeks, so I'm surprised we the winner is Nitro. So winner, Nitro gets a 3.4 and Raw gets a 2.3.
There it is.
Let me see what it was last week. So last week, Nitro got a 3.6 and Raw got a 2.0. So chipping away, or maybe the different time slot helped Raw. Who knows?
Maybe.
Or just the Austin's era has begun and more people are interested in it.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they sort of were warned what was going to be coming this episode. But who cares about that, Jer? What are we going to decide here about which was the better show?
I think it's Raw. Because I would go back and watch Raw. I would never go back and watch this Nitro.
Would you go back and watch Raw, or would you go back and watch the Brian Pillman story?
Okay, but the Brian Pillman story is the entire episode of Raw.
Yeah, except you also have to get through Alex Porto versus the Sultan. You have to get through.
But at least all that. But that's the last.
You have to get
but
through
that kind.
Ross and HBK.
But like the Sean stuff I liked.
You have
But
to
all
get
that's.
Mark Miro and Razor Ramon.
But all those things lasted a few minutes. Where like the bad stuff in Nitro was drawn out. Where like Wall Street Jericho was combined with the interview stuff almost 10 minutes. The Hogan and the Piper stuff and like that whole segment lasted 25 minutes. Like the stuff that was boring lasted forever. Or at least the WWF stuff that was boring was ignored for the most part and went relatively fast. And Vince and King don't even acknowledge it's happened. So it's almost like they didn't even happen on the show.
I feel like I understand what you're saying. You're sweeping those things under the rug to talk about like the good thing.
Yeah.
And
But there's no good thing on Nitro. So if I swept everything under Nitro,
I thought the whole first like 2/3 of Nitro was good. Like I thought everything. Let's see. I'm looking. Well, Scotty Riggs, Dean Malenko was kind of soft, but there's some kind of interesting story developing there that we're being introduced to for the first time. Again, I thought Guerrero Benoit was great. I thought Armstrong Bagwell was great. I liked DDP.
Adam. Listen to the words that you're saying. Marcus Bagwell, Brad Armstrong. I'm telling you, that goddamn Stone Cold Steve Austin was raising hell, whooping ass, and almost got murdered by Brian Pillman. Now that is TV.
All right. You know what? I can't argue enough the other direction on it. So you know what, Jer? I'll chalk this one up to Raw. So Raw has actually been, at least on the Monday Night Pod world, Raw has been on a little bit of a streak for what we're giving it. I think Nitro's just been kind of too Hogan focused, right?
I agree. I think the biggest issue with Nitro, and I think at the end of the day, I would feel much better about Nitro if the NWO stuff was interesting in any way, shape, or form right now. But it's just not. They're not doing anything interesting. They're not doing anything cool. They're doing the same shit every single week, and we're only 3 months into the NWO. We have 3 more years of this. Like, for God's sakes, like the writing was on the wall now. Like, this isn't working. I just don't know who's entertained by this.
I mean, a lot of people, though, because like we're talking about it in retrospect, but man, NWO was a way of life. Like, look at the crowd. Look at how over they are. Look at how many
we're over. That's
are
true.
wearing shirts. We're painting their faces. There was a shot of a guy in this one who had his face painted in NWO across his head. That was pretty cool. Shawn Michaels had a little girl who was dressed up as him on Raw, which
That's
is
true.
Fine and cute, but like NWO was a way of life. People maybe forget that or don't appreciate that as much as it was anymore. Like it was significant in a way that you don't really see anymore. The most significant way that you see it nowadays is probably just in brand loyalty, in like people who are like staunchly NXT people or staunchly AEW people. Mm-hmm. Just because of the nature of ratings wars, you have to like, carry a flag, or people feel they have to carry a flag. That was happening within WCW itself, and people were landing on the side of the NWO.
That's true. Well, that's our opinion, but the beautiful thing with this podcast, Adam, and it's not just about our opinion, it's about our listeners' opinion. So if you have any thoughts on this episode, you want to tell us who you think should have won. Obviously, me and Adam were a little divisive this week, but we determined that it was Raw. You could let us know because we want to hear from you. You can tweet us at Monday Night Pod. You can write to us on our Facebook, Monday Night Pod. You could, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can write in the comments who you think should have won. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, share the video. Instagram, Monday Night Pod. All the podcast platforms we're on too. So make sure to subscribe to Fine. Specifically, if you're listening to Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a 5-star review, and you can tell us there who you think should have won the Monday Night Pod. And anything else, any other thoughts, things you want to plug, things that are on your minds, Adam, before we say goodbye?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things on my mind. None of them related to wrestling. So how much time do you have, Jer Bear?
It's past my bedtime, so not much time.
All right. Well, then I'll save it for another day.
There you go. All right, guys. Bye.